a unique blend of cultures in one country. From different heritages to vast ethnic diversity of tantalizing food, Singapore is any traveller's dream. Today, tourism plays a very significant role in the growth of Singapore's economy. According to the Singapore Tourism Board, international visitor arrivals came in at a record high of 15.6 million in 2013, showing a 7% year-on-year growth. Tourists spent 23.5 billion in tourist receipts that same year, registering a 2% year-on-year increase. Hi, I am Jiawei, the presenter of this documentary. Would Singapore be able to keep up its competitive edge as a tourist destination? That is the question. Let's take a look at what makes Singapore uniquely Singapore. Singapore is home to a collage of cultures and religions. Chinatown for Chinese, Little India for Indians, and Kampung Glam for Malays. Each of these races have their own special traits and characteristics. And it can be felt almost immediately entering into these areas. Singapore even has its own cultural conservation program managed by the Natural Heritage Board. Many are surprised how these antiques are able to survive amidst this urban jungle today. Heritage centres and heritage trails have been created to ensure that the long legacy of traditions, centuries old, will not be forgotten. The Chinatown Heritage Centre is one such example. The city in the garden. Singapore is dotted with numerous parks thanks to the National Parks Board. As tourists roam around Singapore, they'll definitely notice that the roads are lined with huge rain trees, an initiative of the then Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's 1960 campaign to create a clean and green Singapore. His efforts have paid off, with green cover in Singapore increasing from 35.7% in 1986 to 46.5% in 2007. Also, many attractions, such as the Singapore Botanic Gardens and the Gardens by the Bay, have been built for tourists who want a place to relax far from the hustle and bustle of the city. Many conventions and exhibitions have drawn nature lovers from all over the world, such as the more recent Tulip Mania floral display. Asia's biggest, 50,000 different species of tulips have been housed at the intriguing Gardens by the Bay. The government takes an active interest in nature too, constructing many new greenery-related attractions. Spanning a whopping 101 hectares, $1 billion was invested to build the Gardens by the Bay with the aim to increase awareness of the importance of nature. Known as a shopping paradise, there's something for every shopper in Singapore. From world-class brands to cheap bargains you can get at the flea market, it is guaranteed that tourists will shop till they drop. The island-wide transportation efficiently links all major shopping districts such as Orchard, Bugis, and Dhoby Ghaut at affordable rates lower than Hong Kong, London, and New York, such that tourists won't have to walk under those scorching rays of the merciless sun. Unlike Mumbai and the United States, have the peace of mind that you can alight at any station, body completely intact. As for taxes, Singapore has a fairly low goods and service tax (GST) rate of only 7%, while countries like Belgium and Ireland have rates up to 21% and 27% respectively. Also, you don't need to worry about tipping. This cumbersome culture of needing to calculate how much to give for a service is practically non-existent in Singapore. Instead of trying to explain to the elderly cleaner what a tip is, just a smile of appreciation or a word of thanks will make his day. Saving on tips and taxes gives tourists the chance to spend more money on items they want.
Preview.
That was refreshing. Hawker centres are unique to Singapore. Hundreds of stalls crammed under one large roof. Be ready to eat like you've never before, offering a myriad of cuisine cooked Singaporean style through hybridization. Scrumptious fusion food can be found at dirt cheap prices. Tourists will be spoiled for choice by the wide variety of delectable delights they can try. Instead of wasting time and money figuring out where the microscopic amoué-goué or French appetizers has vanished to, Tuck into the heavenly goodness of Singaporean food until you're satisfied. Both you and your wallet will be full, literally. Singapore is ranked the second safest country in the world according to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index 2014. Riots and strikes are almost non-existent in Singapore, which has strict laws for that. Also, mobs of gangsters wielding parang do not show themselves on streets. Political stability enables the peaceful and harmonious coexistence of different races together. Boasting one of the lowest crime rates in the world, petty thefts are pretty uncommon. Customers have the assurance of authentic goods when spending huge sums of cash on luxury goods and items. Thanks to Singapore's strict law on counterfeits, when offenders can expect to be fined up to $100,000, sued by the proprietor of the trademark, and call the prison their home for the next 5 years. Just as a piece of advice, tourists are given the assurance of a safe visit, only if they avoid Sim Lim Square. In terms of natural disasters, Singapore can be ranked as the safest, situated in an idyllic location far from destructive arms of tsunamis, tornadoes and volcanoes. The worst experienced would have been flooding of Orchard Road in 2010, but preventive measures like the improvement of drainage systems have been kicked into place and should not be a problem anymore. Possessing professionals with high standard medical expertise, well-equipped hospitals with state-of-the-art healthcare facilities, Singapore is ranked best in Asia and 6th best in the world as declared by the World Health Organization. Costing relatively cheaper than US and Europe, it is estimated that 900 million was spent by medical travelers in 2011, increasing slowly but steadily. Many patients praise the efficiency and reliability of the medical infrastructure, the cleanliness of hospital surroundings, as well as English proficient medical teams, which medical travelers can comfortably communicate with. Furthermore, by 2030, 8 new developments will be progressively added with key expansions in the areas of healthcare, education and research as part of Health City Novena, a 17-hectare modern integrated healthcare master plan set to cater to Singapore's future healthcare needs. Though Singapore prospers from all the aspects mentioned earlier, it also faces a few limitations. Some of these are internal, while others are external. Let's take a look at a few of these limits. Singapore has a limited amount of land of only 716 square kilometers presently, with a constantly growing population that is estimated to reach between 6.5 and 6.9 million by 2030. A new development plan, Singapore 2030, was announced by the government that aims to increase its land area to 766 square kilometers through land reclamation from the sea. Meager as compared to larger countries such as China, Britain, and Malaysia, Singapore is unable to construct much more new attractions to entice tourists, hindering its development rate. Competing with the growing list of other tourist attractions in other countries is indeed tough. To promote tourism, many other countries have built more appealing tourist sites to attract more tourists, such as Malaysia's Legoland and Hello Kitty World, which will reduce Singapore's share of regional tourist spending. Singapore has as good as no natural attractions due to its plain landscape. With our extensive knowledge in geography, we know that no mountains, volcanoes, rivers, or any natural phenomenon can form in Singapore. This increases competition from other countries as they may have stunning landscapes of mountain ranges like Mount Fuji of Japan, volcanoes in Hawaii, and rivers like the Amazon River of Brazil. That's if the Singapore River is excluded from the list. It's a young, tiny nation. Singapore has much lesser history and tourist sites than other countries like China and Korea, just to name a few, due to Singapore's small area and the later founding. Singapore has recently entered the gambling industry with the construction of the Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa. However, key players are reporting the lowest gaming revenues in 18 months at their Singapore casinos. The reduction in revenues can be exacerbated by the emergence of casinos in countries such as South Korea and the Philippines, and these countries are closer to the key markets such as China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Weighing the two different stands, we feel that Singapore is able to keep up its competitive edge as a tourist destination, since Singapore is already developed and is rather focused on conservation efforts. However, this will only be possible with the continual maintenance of Singapore. Singapore should preserve and strengthen its local identity in many aspects, especially in its architecture. This will definitely lead to conservation and preservation of social and urban fabric, making sure that older and built-up areas are retained and not thrown away due to the economic pressure. This will lead to Singapore being differentiated from others. We should also focus on being a more multiracial country, as this will once again prove to the tourists that Singapore will welcome any tourist with open arms. Even though Singapore is lacking significantly in natural and size-wise, it is still able to create a sufficient increase in quality due to its various man-made reasons. It can therefore be concluded that Singapore's popularity is based on its quality of man-made reasons and is all affected by man than by nature. All of these measures will help to ensure that Singapore is and remains the gateway to Asia.